0*311# for superb airtime purchase experience. You enjoy 100% bonus airtime anytime you recharge yourself with MTN Momo. Keep on talking with that 100% feeling. So, what are we doing today?
MTN. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Midday News. The news is live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra. In Kumasi, we are on Love 99.5 FM. We are on a number of affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions. We are on Amenuveve FM in Aflao, Kaleo FM in Akachi. We are on ATL FM in Cape Coast, Radio Max in Takrady, and Ganga FM in Jirapa. We are live on Twitter Spaces. We are on Facebook and myjoyonline.com. The Midday News is sponsored by Petrosol. Your clean fuel in full quantity. Petrosol is always a delightful experience. Also brought to you by Duraplus Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplus goes, water flows. This afternoon.
So we want to use the opportunity to send a message to all the rank and file across all the country, all our delegates, all our aspirants, that we are ready to go right ahead with the elections tomorrow.
And barely hours after NDC got the green light to proceed with Saturday's presidential and parliamentary primaries, the party has once again been hit with a fresh legal action. We have details of that for you here on the Midday News. Also this afternoon, pathologists warn babies in Galamsey areas are being born with one eye without genitalia, as experts decry the deplorable effects of illegal mining.
You've seen in Ghana people being born with all manner of deformities. One eye, Jonathan, no genitals. I have some in my office. Not in my office as in displaying, but not for the fun of it. I use it as a means to teach, to let people understand that this thing that we first.
Also, Attorney General criticizes some judges for giving lenient sentences and bail conditions to illegal miners, as he says Galamsey should not be a bailable offense.
Practice whereby bail is granted on very lenient terms, clearly unwarranted. Immediately the bail is granted, the perpetrators of the offense go back to illegal mining. The Supreme Court held that every offense is bailable. Yeah. I find that, with all respect, very much of a challenge.
Also, minority demands Education Minister is hauled before Education Committee to answer for the lives of school children who drowned at Fana on their way to school.
And I would clearly bring this to the awareness of the rest of my colleagues in leadership. We should be summoning the minister to respond and answer to some of these issues directly to the committee.
We're live in the area as the Greater Accra Regional Minister moves to the community to commiserate with parents. We have sports.
It's a third successive Women's Premier League final between Ampem Dakuan ladies and Hazakes ladies. We preview the heavyweight clash in 20 minutes.
And much later, the inspiration behind the hit songs composed by Ghana's Artiste of the Year.
My mystery box is somewhere very near. Because with everything that happens to me, first thing I do with it, I write my music. But I know they waste no content in my life. Like some interviews of Maya Angelou, like Bob Marley. It's mostly videos for me.
That's and more in this afternoon's edition of the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. Please stay on for details. Well, that's the sounds of excitement that greeted the decision of an Accra High Court earlier today. It appears that excitement is short-lived. We know that the court struck out a case filed by NDC flag bearer hopeful Dr. Kobna Dufour against tomorrow's primaries. Well, Dr. Dufour had alleged the delegates list handed to the party, handed him by the party, was bloated. Hence the decision to seek the court's intervention to block the primaries. Well, that appears to be short-lived now, and we are told that the party has been hit with another injunction application. Legal affairs correspondent Joseph Akable joins me in studio with more on this. To give us the details, who is behind this?
So it's one Edgar Samuel Boating. He is the one who has filed an application at the High Court in Adenta seeking an order to injunct the NDC's presidential and parliamentary primaries. He describes himself in court documents we have secured a copy of as a card-bearing member of the NDC in Ebuakwa North, and says he's surprised that as at now they has not received the voters register or neither has it been given to his representatives or all other aspirants, including presidential candidates. And so in terms of what he's asking the court to do, a number of it, the first one is the initial order, which is requesting that the court puts this particular election that's supposed to take place on hold. He goes on to say that he and other members of the party from various parts of the country filed their nominations and were approved to contest, and that upon the conclusion of the vetting processes, they were assured that all parliamentary candidate aspirants and presidential candidate aspirants will be given a proper register devoid of all duplications and errors. He adds that they were further assured that they will be given a photographic register to enable all eligible voters to be easily identified at the election by polling agents. He adds that copies of the photo album register of eligible voters for the internal elections will be given at least 1 month before the impending internal elections to afford presidential and parliamentary aspirants an opportunity to verify the accuracy of the voters register. He goes on to say that as it stands now, that has not been carried out, and as a result of the rancor and acrimony, some members of the party who are aspirants already decided to take legal action. So that is reference to the Dr. Dufo one. He says that all attempts to obtain a proper photo register has fallen on deaf ears, and all indications are that the impending internal party elections would be a disaster. They says the party itself has been given conflicting directives on the issuance of register and is fueling uncertainty surrounding the credibility. And so he maintains that the reluctance to provide the complete register smacks of a plan to create undue advantage for manipulation of the presidential and parliamentary elections. And so it's for this reason that he's asking the courts to injunct this particular process.
Okay, thank you very much. That's our legal affairs correspondent. He'll come back with me, Joseph, and give us details of what transpired in court earlier today. But let me bring in the Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC, Lawyer Abraham Amaliba. We're grateful for your time here on the Midday News. Have you received this latest injunction?
So checks are made at the party headquarters in Adabraka indicates that no such writ has been served on the party.
Okay, but really, what's happening within the NDC? It appears your house is not in order.
I would want to think that there are people who are engaged in mischief, and that is mischief at play, but the party is united. If you want to measure the strength of the party or the unity of the party, talk to the grassroots. They are yearning for these elections to come off. So there are few miscreants who want to, as it were, thwart the effort of the party. But I think that generally the party is united.
Well, once you mentioned earlier that the party is yet to receive this latest injunction filed, but once it comes to the attention of the party, what then happens?
We'll take a decision. As lawyers, we've done it before. We just did it with this one. We'll take a decision. But the entire party would meet to direct the lawyers as to what to do.
Except in this particular one, you had the luxury of time. At least in the nick of time, you were able to get that injunction struck out. But in this particular one, you don't have that luxury of time, do you? And
if we are not served, we have the luxury to continue with the process. Service is on two officers of the party. And if that service is not done, then the party is at liberty to continue with preparations towards tomorrow.
Is that to say that even if the party is served, you call the bluff of this particular injunction and go ahead with the presidential and parliamentary primaries?
That's a decision that we'll take when we are served. So let's wait and see whether we'll be served or not.
But we know earlier, when that first injunction was filed, we knew the position of the Electoral Commission. They wanted you to put your house in order before they can participate in this particular primaries. With this latest one, I don't know if the EC has communicated to you just yet. What then happens if the EC should take this decision they took earlier?
That is to say, if the EC is served with the second one?
Exactly.
Well, I've indicated somewhere that it is not mandatory for the EC to organize or supervise our elections. So, under the Political Parties Act, it is clear that the EC is only mandated to organize the constituency, regional, and the national elections. So, let's wait and see what the EC will say. But for now, we have not been served, and I've not also heard anything from the EC.
Okay, but with a substantive one, at least, the one that was struck out in court today, have we had any official communication of the EC about their participation in the primaries if it happens tomorrow?
So I'm sure by now the order has been drawn. You need to serve them with the order. So I'm sure we left some lawyers there, and I'm sure by now the order has been drawn. And then I'm aware the party executives are the EC headquarters, and we will serve them with the order. That will show that the court has disposed of the action.
But is the party surprised at all these happenings? Because with this latest one, the writ, or at least the injunction found and the reasons given, he says if the presidential and parliamentary primaries is allowed to go ahead, it will be a disaster. Is the party surprised at all these happenings?
We are angry at the spate of applications and the writs that are coming on. But the party is not perturbed about the allegations contained in those writs. The party is clear in its mind that there's not going to be any disaster. The party has deployed the police to all the stations. The party has a credible voter register. Those who are affiliated with albums are on their own. There's a voter delegates list, which is the voter register, and that is what we are going to depend on.
Okay, we are grateful. We're watching what happens, and that's Abraham Amaliba, is Director of Legal for the NDC. Well, let me bring back Legal Affairs Correspondent Joseph Akable. I don't know if we should still bring back lawyer for the NDC, Godwin Ejudi Tamaklo. Earlier, he said that the party has now the green light to proceed with primaries. We'll get to it shortly, but let's talk about what transpired in court earlier today.
Yes, and so when the case was called, a number of members of the legal team all showed up. The former President John Dramani Mahama had a legal team representing him. The NDC also had their own set of lawyers, the election committee as well. But lawyers for Dr. Dufour informed the court that they had decided to withdraw this particular action. They did not give any specific reason except to add that they had wanted or would have preferred to come with a formal request, as in a document, a motion asking to discontinue the case, but they have not been able to do so. So they made the application orally, and none of the parties opposed this application, including the Electoral Commission that had its lawyers in court, and so there was no opposition. Then the court decided to, once the request was made for withdrawal, to strike out the case as withdrawn, and so that terminated that particular one. And we spoke to Fifi Kwete, who is the General Secretary of the party, and he indicated that as far as they are concerned, they are proceeding.
So we want to use the opportunity to send a message to all the rank and file across all the country, all our delegates, all our aspirants, that we are ready to go right ahead with the elections tomorrow. We are happy that the plaintiff have decided to discontinue the case. That opens the door for us to be able to proceed with the elections tomorrow. So we want to use the opportunity to send a message to all the rank and file across all the country, all our delegates, all our aspirants, that we are ready to go right ahead with the elections tomorrow. So we're going to immediately get in touch with the Electoral Commission and arrange that all the logistics are able to reach to the places that they ought to reach. Thank you all of you for the cooperation. Yeah, it's been satisfied. The delegate list is the main primary document that we are depending on, and this delegate list has been ready, made available to all the contestants. So really, as far as we are concerned, there really was no case to begin with. But we are happy they didn't decided to withdraw it.
The Electoral Commission stated that it would be difficult for them to be able to...
I've already explained that we will make sure every assistance is provided for the materials to reach in good time. We will ensure that all the materials are there on time.
Well, Joseph is still with me in the studio. Issues about the delegate list, it appears, runs through all the issues that have been raised. But if it happens tomorrow, if the parliamentary and presidential primaries goes ahead, when we're expected to vote, let's go through it.
And so in terms of the numbers, we are looking at as many as is taking place in 276 constituencies. That is for the presidential elections. So they've added a salve of sorts to that particular one. Then in terms of the parliamentary, we know that at least 229 constituencies, because the party did indicate that there are some areas that for strategic reasons they don't intend to hold it there. We are looking at a total of more than 300,000 delegates. And in terms of the areas that you have high numbers, we are looking at Central Region that has about 31,000, Eastern Region 36,000. We also have the Greater Accra that has 69,000, and Ashanti also 61,967. And we are looking at they are mainly branch executives from that level. They are the ones who are participating. We also know that there are some key individuals who, as a result of the positions that they've held previously in government, and also former officials, high-level officials, who also be participating in this particular exercise.
And your election headquarters is here to give you all the extensive coverage when it comes to this presidential and parliamentary primaries. This evening, we start with Election Eve. It's at 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Winston Amwa and Evans Mensah will be leading that. And if it happens tomorrow also, we're there to bring you all that you need to know. We've been deployed to all the key constituencies, and we're bringing you extensive coverage on TV, online, and on radio. Now, out of the election headquarters, children born in areas prone to illegal mining suffer cognitive impairment and other deformities due to the high use of heavy metals in gold extraction by Galamsey operators. The children also suffer from kidney and hypertensive related conditions. That is the observation of a consultant pathologist at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, Professor Paul Pokusampene Osei. According to Professor Osei, some children are born with only one eye and without genitals.
The problem that we are encountering is you get a baby being born with maybe the legs formed around the chest or maybe around the stomach. You see somebody's leg formed around the
legs formed around the neck.
The neck, yes.
Legs around the neck.
Exactly. In fact, these ones we have not experienced some here in Ghana yet.
Okay.
But you've seen in Ghana people being born with all manner of deformities. One eye, you understand, no genitals. I have some in my office. Not in my office as in displaying, but not for the fun of it. I use it as a means to teach, to let people understand that this thing that we are first reading from textbooks or getting them in the textbooks, now they are with us here. They are with us right here.
How common is it? These deformities.
You see,
is it only in the Galamsey areas?
Well,
meanwhile, Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame says offences like Galamsey should not be bailable. The Supreme Court has ruled that all offences are bailable, a position the AG disagrees with. According to the Attorney General, some judges also give out lenient bail conditions, hampering government's fight against the menace. He's been speaking to Kuja Yankson.
I think that we clearly require the cooperation of the judiciary. Yes, I have placed on record the fact that the judiciary is doing its best because they have sentenced quite a number of people, especially in the Eastern region. We had over 120 people, as I said, sentenced. I think 187 actually. 187 people sentenced for offences related to illegal mining, out of which 33 were actually sentenced to terms more than 15 years. Practice whereby bail is granted on very lenient terms, clearly unwarranted, because the reality is that immediately the bail is granted, the perpetrators of the offense go back to illegal mining. And in many cases in the Eastern region, most of the accused persons have absconded. Our constitution is regularly interpreted by the Supreme Court. Recently, there was a decision in Martin Pebu against the Attorney General about 3-4 years ago, where the Supreme Court held that every offense is bailable. Yeah. I find that, with all respect, very much of a challenge, because every society ought to construe its laws in accordance with the specific circumstances prevailing in the country in question. And we ought to show greater, as I said, revulsion or abhorrence for certain offenses. It does not serve the public interest if every offense is bailable, and offenses as egregious as armed robbery, Galamsey and all, which have a very devastating effect on the entire nation. The judges ought to exercise their discretion more reasonably and more cautiously.
Well, he also criticized judges who sentenced culprits of illegal mining under an old law instead of using the new one, which has stiffer sanctions. Between
January 2021 and October 2022, as many as 33 persons had been convicted and sentenced under the current punishment regime, under Act 995. Out of the 33 persons who had been sentenced under Act 995, 11 of them were foreigners. So that's the record, and it shows that clearly people are being prosecuted and convicted and also sentenced under Act 995. I again indicated that there was an error on the part of some courts, whereby instead of imposing sentences under Act 995, as well punishment regime was applied. And for me, that constituted a flagrant violation of the law, was insupportable, and had to be set aside. Presently, there is this instance of 2 cases in the Upper East region. And the Upper East region is actually one of the regions which has the lowest number of galamsey cases.
Well, that's Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame. That full interview with Kojo Yankson airs on the Super Morning Show on Monday. Now, the minority on the Education Committee in Parliament is demanding the Education Minister, Dr. Yawose Educhum, be summoned to answer for the lives of children who drowned on their way home from school at Fana in Waja here in Accra. Disaster struck on Wednesday when a boat carrying 12 school children capsized, drowning 9 and leaving 3 survivors. A similar tragedy occurred in Kejeji in the Sene East District, where 8 children from school also drowned. The Education Ministry admitted to lapses in educational planning and lack of schools in these island communities, promising to resolve the situation.
I felt terrible, especially when children are going to school. If they were doing any other thing, it will still hurt you. But when they are trying to have a better future for themselves and they are going to school, when this happens, it hurts us. And it's something that we all have to learn from. We're also going to have a meeting with district directors in areas like that to begin to look at what our short-term, long-term strategies are so that children don't get into harm's way.
However, months after this assurance, not much has been done in the Sene East District where the first incident occurred. There are still no schools for the children except crowding them in a church building for studies. But the minority on the Education Committee is laying the blame squarely at the door of the Education Minister. Listen to Dr. Clement Apawu.
Government ought to take responsibility, and in fact, I am angered and dismayed by the fact that neither the President of the Republic, Akufo-Addo, nor his Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, or even the Minister for Education has commented publicly on this tragedy, let alone to say a few words to console the distraught parents and the grieving community. This is not acceptable. But ultimately, we need to wake up, and the resources have to be made available to Get Fund. Get Fund must be decapped so that Get Fund can provide the needed funding for us to build educational infrastructure in communities that deserve schools for the children to be able to attend.
Well, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey is currently leading a team to the Fana area. We'll bring you details as when we get it. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll take a quick break, and it's brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity, and also by Duraplast Ghana Limited, producers of quality PVC pipes and water tank. Where Duraplast goes, water flows. And barely hours after NDC got the green light to proceed with Saturday's presidential and parliamentary primaries, the party has once again been hit with a fresh legal suit. We return with sport, and then Ghana gets closer to an IMF deal with financing assurances shared by France and China likely to provide it today. And we get to hear the inspiration behind the hit songs composed by Ghana's Artist of the Year.
My mystery box is somewhere very near. Because with everything that happens to me, first thing I do with it, I write my music with. I know they waste no content in my life, like some interviews of Maya Angelou, like Bob Marley. It's mostly videos for me.
Imagine say water wake up at dawn, no bath, no chop, where it vanish for your area for 2 weeks. You not get one drop safe inside your tank.
Hey.
Haja, our life was in dangerous. Only our neighbor get water with water tank.
Water tank?
Yes, water tank. Mamma mia, that water tank get meter for checking water level. That water tank be fine past Kumasi Selendion. That water tank be tough like Ghana Army. That water tank, they carry water pepe, so say some no go left inside the supply tank. What a tank! As my boss, Mr. Poncho, go talk.
Beautiful, durable, with water level indicator and accurate volume of water. Water tank. What a tank! By Duraplast.
Thanks for sticking with us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Times for Sports.
Thank you very much, Emefa. Now, for the third successive season, Ampem Dakwa ladies and Azakes ladies will face off in the final of the Women's Premier League. Azakes ladies were crowned champions in 2021 after recording a 4-0 win over their opponent. Ampem Dakwa had their revenge a year later by winning 5-3 on penalties. The two sides are winners of their respective zones and will meet today at 4 p.m. to determine the 2023 Women's Premier League champion. We'll hear from Azakes ladies head coach Yusuf Bazigi. But first, though, is Joe Adakwa of Ampem Dakwa.
This is the final match, so going for another preparation towards the match is not all that we all need. So we have already started our preparation, and we want to repeat what happened last season. Last season was about 90%, but this time we need about 100% performance so that we can clinch the ultimate.
We are very much well prepared for this particular game because we can afford to lose to Ampem Dakwa for the second time in such an important match, because both of us want to represent the nation, but we want to represent the nation better. And for that matter, we are much ready for today's game.
So Azakes ladies head coach Yusuf Bazigi and Joe Adakwa of Ampem Dakwa spoke to my colleague Lawrence Beidu. And remember, the winner represents Ghana at the Waffle Zone B Championship for a slot in the next CAF Women's Champions League.
Thank you, Mubarak. Now, joining us this afternoon, learning Ghana's official creditors are poised to grant financing assurances and form a committee co-chaired by France and China, which are key steps for the nation to secure a $3 billion International Monetary Fund (IMF) deal. The country's bilateral lenders are expected to formally grant financing assurances as soon as today, confirming that they will then start talks to give Ghana the relief needed to make it a debt sustainable. We can hear from Information Minister Kojo Ponkroma confirming this in an interview on Asempa FM's Ekosi saying,
the information I hear from the corridors of power and the IMF and it's all of those final details are coming together any moment from now on bit to me at the ACO board level for the board meeting. Na board no to me amasa approval no balance of payment support na ehwehwe no if you say yes akan no on that side. The confidence we can have, so I think all is set. Any moment from now, they should be able to take us at the next with the board level couple of board meetings. The assurances are not necessarily based on proposals. Okay. Based on Omoma assessment of the staff level agreement.
Well, let me bring in Joy Business editor George. We have been watching talks so far. You reported on this latest development on Tuesday. What more are you learning, George?
What more we are learning is that we are indeed close to this. And why this is happening now is because China is coming on board. Concerns about how Ghana's debt to China should be classified has been resolved, and that is why China is coming on board. You shouldn't forget that previously the members of the creditors committee had agreed in principle that they will extend this financing assurance to Ghana. So now that China is coming on board, that is why they think that they've made that significant progress, and that formal communication should be extended to the IMF by the close of today, or maybe even going into next week, that they are committed to participating in Ghana's financing program, and that should also give some progress in terms of our program likely being approved or considered by the IMF board before the end of this month.
Okay, thank you very much, George Yafe will be giving us more subsequently. Now, the Ministry of Education has emphasized the importance of reading Ghanaian literature as the only way to achieve what it describes as Ghana beyond neo-colonialism. According to Director of Planning and Strategy at the Ministry, Aaron Chuma Kwabwa, the habit of reading must be inculcated in citizens early enough. He's been speaking during the launch of the Carnival Digital Reading Project by Pebicap's Library Services at Afopita College.
A year-long campaign by Pebicap in collaboration with UNESCO, the Ministry of Education and other partners aims to provide Ghanaians with access to a vast collection of books. The digital platform will enable users to read books and access other learning materials on their mobile phones. Aaron Chum Akwabwa is the Director of Planning and Strategy at the Ministry of Education.
His Excellency always brings up Ghana beyond aid.
I am going to argue that we're going to be Ghana beyond neo-colonialism. They are not here. They don't have guns trained against us. They're not here forcing us to do work, but we read their books. We take in their culture. We eat their foods. When we write our own books, when we write our own stories, we are the heroes.
Now to showbiz, Artist of the Year, Black Sheriff has opened up on what inspires his music.
My mystery box is somewhere very near. Because with everything that happens to me, first thing I do with it, I write my music with. I know they waste no content in my life. Okay. Whatever happens to me, I know they waste time. I pen them down, sing it down. I think that's like part of my healing process is them things. Yeah.
At your age, when I listen to your music, the kind of things and your level of, your pen game, I wonder, do you have people writing with you or is just you?
Just me and my phone. Sometimes I plug the beats in my ear and start writing.
Do you read books?
It's really like random stuff, like some interviews of Maya Angelou, like Bob Marley. It's mostly videos for me and like documentaries and books sometimes when I travel. Yeah.
You read books?
Yeah.
Oh, soldier, stand and beat your chest. Did they come? No,
And that's of today's edition of the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Our top stories barely hours after NDC got the green light to proceed with Saturday's presidential and parliamentary primaries. The party has been hit with a fresh legal action. You want to stay with your election headquarters for details of this particular developing story. You have Election Eve this evening on the Joy News channel, 8 to 10 p.m. You ought to catch it. I am Emefa Apawu. Catch you during the weekend. We have Living Word